like I say, there is video of all this stuff. And I believe Rodney was involved in the Yales and the Harvards. They're basically stomp group or whatever. Anyway, there's actually video of Nixon trying to get off his people. It's JFK, basically. Jimmy Carter. And there's video of Nixon like he's like, I'll demonstrate for you now. A person will walk up, and he'll hear a loud noise, and he'll walk in position, and he'll start, oh! You know, and Nixon was basically just doing this thing where he was trying to say it's a neurological condition, and it affects about 3% of humanity, and it's known, and the presence of one person will cause other people to lock in position as well, not necessarily next to each other, but nearby, and it affects about 3% people, and you can get groups of about 30 people together all yelling, and it's not their fault, and it's more of a whatever, you know, and like, anyway, Nixon did all this stuff in court, where he walked up and he would be like, yes, I am so-and-so Dr. Nixon, neurological, whatever, and you find out that Nixon wasn't necessarily, you know, he was basically, you know, he was really JFK, and basically there was all these people, you know, he did Yale, you know, where people would walk up and they would lock in position and they go, oh, you know, and Rodney was I think probably one of the Yale people, basically yellers, yelling. You know, they would just, you know, they start just like dull, like, oh, you know, like that kind of thing. And they went around the world, and what they would do is they're mostly going after Germans and older people with money. And they would usually rape the children and do all kinds of other nasty things inside, while these other people were outside yelling, going, oh, you know, pretending to have this neurological condition. They would like walk in position and with their mouth open and yell, you know. And Nixon would demonstrate this in court and say it's not their fault, blah blah blah. And this was like 1930s, 1920s, 1940s. 1950s, where they were describing the Yale condition. It affects about 3% of America, and these people just happen to usually just coalesce near each other. You know, they're drawn to each other. You know, and it happens. And when the presence of one going off will affect the other people, and they just need to think about calm, cool thoughts. And you know, it's basically just a bunch of, you know, the perversion of the court system and everything else. Rodney, Briley, Rick Bush, Nixon, Jimmy Carter, you know, basically all just conners, you know, and they were just going around and they were basically beating the crap out of old German people, but old German people always kept their guns, so, you know, and they would do things like, all right, guys, go, you know, and they would run up and they would rush into this room with this older, like 80-year-old German general or whatever, German officer, and you know, and you know, and they would pull, you know, they usually wore their sidearm next to them, so they would pull out their gun, you know, and as these football players rushed into this room, and he's like, and Nixon would be in the back saying, "They can't get us all, guys, go," you know, and then the Germans would be like, just start shooting them, you know, and Germans don't miss, and they would just get the German officer's address off of the court, whatever, you know, from the government, and the, you know, he was 80 years old, but you know, he could still shoot, you know, and then the German would just chase him down the stairway, and then, you know, get as many as he could, and meanwhile, you know, and basically it's just these football players, or you know, Yale, Harvard, the school. Frat group, you know, just trying to get to some old person's money, you know, and then get to their accounts after they killed them, after they beat the crap out of them with baseball bats. 1920s, 1930s, like, everyone knew what was going on, and I knew as well, and I was just like, you know, it was you know, it was a problem for the other people, so, you know, so, I mean, and while other people are like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, he doesn't, it's like, well, that's what Yale was, and what Nixon and Jimmy Carter were doing, and what, you know, Rodney, Rick Bush, a bunch of young, stupid kids, you know, just, basically, and then later on they were like, oh, that doesn't work anymore, we can't do that anymore, that's junk science, you know, and Richard Nixon, that's corruption, and later on, Richard Nixon, you know, it's like, you know, from one year to the next, he would always change his tune or change, you know, his, you know, he'd pretend it's like, oh, now we're doing this, you know, and, you know, it was basically just how much could you get away with within the system, you know, and, you know, I mean, every credible person knew about it, and like I knew about it, of course, and I was just like, wow, you know, and then they try and cover up those records like as if it never happened, and like that's what they did to the German officers. You know, and then later on, like 10 years later after that, they posted all these videos of dead people, and they're like Germany, you know, it was Hitler, it was the Führer, you know, just blaming people, and you know, it's just this whole big lie, you know, and it's like I'm not, you know, I had nothing to do with it, you know, ask Rodney, ask Rick Bush, you know, I mean, and they know what they did, you know, I mean. They know the despicable acts. I mean, a lot of them didn't know. I mean, I don't know if. I mean, a lot of them said, "Oh, you didn't know that there were children being raped inside that building." 6-year-old little girls were being raped by those Yale people, by those Harvard people. 6-year-old girls. You know, and they're beating on 80-year-old old guys. You know, and raping women. You know, I mean, it was despicable. So, anyway, there are always investigations, and then they try to just burn the records for the despicable acts. John McCain, Rick Bush, Rodney Briley, Yale people, Harvard people. You know, I mean, and it's just like, you know, I mean, just a bunch of despicable people. And then they were like, we're despicable. Yeah, it's so cool. You know, and then it's just like, they were proud of it. You know, and then they, you know, it didn't matter. You know, every day a week, there's a new lie. There's a new excuse. You know, and I didn't have anything to do with it. You know, I was just advised of it because it was going on in one of my cities. And they want to come after me, you know, but that's what they do. They just go after one person after another. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, there's no accounting for pathetic losers.